Hi everyone, just got some more Showdown. This is a two-part series called Let's Try to Get All These Decent Replays Out Before They Become Irrelevant due to Marshadow being released. Obviously, I guess additionally, Megalopony and friends are back in town in a few days. Yeah, I think I heard that correctly. If you go on Showdown, it actually just shows them as like OU. Whether or not you can actually use them on the ladder is unknown to me. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. I think you guys would be familiar with this team. It's Roarcoon, Roar Latias. I don't know if it actually ever got revealed. It was just like Roar on Life with Latias, like where you would put Defog, and then Scarflet, Rocky MC Land. That's pretty much the team. My opponent was using that team that I kind of just referenced. It's just really well known. This battle was like, I think a few months ago, which just goes to show you how old that team is, but it's still like really popular because whenever you're able to get a good matchup, it's just insane because like the offensive synergy is like really good. The only flaw is the fact that like Smeargle is very limited in what it can do. It's like really easy to set up on, and when you're playing hyper offense, you're really playing 5-on-5. Like, I cannot stress that enough. It's almost even like you're playing 4.5-on-5 just because this thing is like a really big setup. It's not really big setup clutter, but it's very easy to expose once something has been put to sleep. So a lot of like managing that team is preserving any sort of like ability to put something to sleep. That's usually what makes it effective when you decide to use it. Anyway, I'm just gonna lead off with the Ferrothorn. I decided it's immune to Spore. I can get my hazards up if I so choose. Probably not going to do that though, just because unless they have Dark Void, which they don't carry, I'm able to just knock this out in 2 turns, and that would be very nice. I'd be able to progress the game. That Pinsir looking really threatening if I hadn't pointed that out. I do know how the team is to Heatran in the sense that like Celesteela just which is supposed to be like one of the best late game cleaners, or definitely was at the time the team was made, is just walled by Heatran. So that's very easy to exploit because what do you call it? Mimikyu, Bisharp, and Celesteela are like, obviously weak to fire, or they just don't appreciate Heatran burning them at all. And so that's pretty much it. So I've pretty much just outlined the first couple of turns of the battle. So I don't know. I guess I'll ask you guys how your day has been going. Just what was? Oh, okay. I could have gone for 2 Gyro Balls, but on the off chance they wanted to hard switch into Segura, that would have covered my bases. I'm not quite sure if that was Sub Dragon Dance or if that was Coil Dragon Dance, but either way, having Leech Seed aid me in wearing it down with Gyro Ball would have been very helpful, in which case, yeah, I would have been able to eliminate it as a threat. Smeargle's going to obviously go down to the Leech Seed. I do know that this thing carries Fire Laws. It's arguably their best switch in, considering that Zygarde does not sub on that team. Well, and it's not like sub Coil, it's also not like 4D, but having what do you call it? It's also not sub DD Protect, which actually beats any Ferrothorn. It's really important that I stress that because I definitely look at the team a lot differently now. Just having seen the possibility of sub Protect whenever I play it, just I feel like it's worth taking. But anyway, I'm just going to make the safe play go into Heatran. I know that they can't really punish me for doing so. Double switch into Zygarde would have actually been really fortunate for my opponent. Not fortunate, it just would have been a good idea. the ability to make that play, given such little like knowledge. I mean, like 2 turns was actually a very hard decision to come to. It's obviously high risk, high reward. I'm just gonna go into Heatran. I believe I have Stealth Rock on this, but I'm gonna go for Toxic on the Zygarde. Again, because I'm not quite sure whether or not it's a sub or just double dance, I guess you could say, even though Coil isn't really dance, it's more of a, I don't know, I guess it is a movement in its own right, but the point is I'm going to Suicune because this thing is worn out. I can roar it out. In the case that they decide that they want to set up another time, they do just wise up and go for the 1,000 arrows, kind of just figuring that since Heatran is rocks, Ferrothorn's likely to be spikes, in which case they're probably going to shuffle out. In any case, damage on Suicune is very much appreciated. So I'm just going to go into, they're going to be forced out into their Bisharp. I'm just going to go for the Scald as they knock my leftovers off. I don't really have plans for this Suicune just because relying on sleep turns is not ideal. They actually go for a second knockoff, and I actually survived that knockoff because obviously it's like weakened. You're never going to Sucker Punch in that situation. Maybe you would Swords Dance, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, they get forced out into the Zygarde, and it's pretty clear what I have to do. I have to roar it out on the off chance it wants to set up. This is just how I have to play the game. What do you call it? I have Lele that I can go into. This is obviously Scarf Lele. In the event that that Zygarde was running max speed, the export of the team shows that it definitely does not. It runs a lot of bulk. So that means that I'm going to be able to safely revenge kill that Zygarde. In comes the Celesteela. I'm just going to go out to the Heatran because that forces it up. Zygarde being out of the way and have been toxic was very crucial in weakening their team because now we can really exploit their weakness to fire and just Heatran in general, just because, you know, Heatran's a fairly bulky fire type. So actually, funny story here, I actually asked the people in the chat whether or not this Heatran carried Earthquake, or not Heatran, this Pinsir carried Earthquake, because if it carried close combat, I was just going to say in the Bubble Plume, knowing that it can't actually knock me out with non-stab close combat because I'm max HP. They told me that it ran Earthquake, so I made the appropriate switch into Landorus. It doesn't really matter in the sense that I'm not getting the Intimidate on it, but what do you call it? What was I gonna say? It doesn't matter in the sense that its attack isn't going to be lowered, but I do love the ability to be a revenge killer with Choice Scarf. They did notice, of course, that Lele was faster than Zygarde, though I'm sure that's a possibility in the event that I was Timid Lele and they were just that set with Zygarde. I wouldn't be surprised if that was an actual possibility, or I guess it's possible that Zygarde is just EV to outpace Timid Lele after webs, which would be, I guess, really smart on NJMP's part. So basically, I'm just gonna go for the sword, or not the sword stance. They're going to go for the sword stance. I'm just gonna go for the Continental Crush. I guess what they thought is that if this happened to be Choice Scarf Landorus, their win condition would in essence be to get +2 in order to, well, basically to dodge Stone Edge, set up on the Landorus, and then try to ravage the rest of the team. I'm not quite sure if Latias lives after Stealth Rock. I think it's a roll just because of the whole aerial late nerf, but it quite possibly could have knocked me out after Stealth Rock, in which case that would have just been game because I don't have any way to remove the hazards. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of that Pinsir. In comes Celesteela. This is again another big threat, but I got the Heatran, so I don't have to worry too much about it at this point. It's pretty much just all set. and there are very few possibilities in which they could have won the game because Bisharp was weakened, likely wasn't going to set up, and basically any sort of free switch into Heatran would have put me in a fantastic position to fire off a stab attack and possibly burn down to Mickey. They realized that and forfeit accordingly. So I guess we'll move on to the next game. Using this team that I really enjoyed using, I kind of tailored it to deal with Mega Low Bunny and friends, like I kind of just mentioned. But I'm not really confident in its ability to fare well against Marshadow, just because Marshadow is, of course, a really, I don't know, it's still being explored, but there are variations of it where it like runs sub and swagger. There are variations where it's just swagger and take 3 attacks. There's like a whole possibility with like Technician and Hidden Power Ice, meaning that you only need like 16 EVs to Oko Landorus or Garchomp bulky variants, mind you. Most of the time with Hidden Power Ice, you have like a 70% chance for like Lando, and I think it's a little bit higher for Garchomp just because it has better special defense, or just not better special defense, just better HP, therefore granting it better pull. So that's pretty cool. My opponent has a really potent threat in Mega Heracross. I'm running Banditar, Scarf Held with Stone Edge because they run that because of Volcarona now. Rockstar on Mew, that's Mega Chomp in Sand. Decided to give it another go. I last used it, I think about a year ago. Maybe not exactly a year ago, but definitely in July, maybe August time. So I don't know, just figured I'd try it out with Shift Gear Magearna. I'm rocking the Volkey Titanium Z set, and this Tangrowth has Hidden Power Ice because I don't want to get shrieked by Landorus, or defensive Landorus. It has the possibility of just destroying my team otherwise. So we're just going to lead it with Magearna, as they opt to lead with Tapu Fini. I'm not going to stay in here. I was kind of tempted to, just because getting the damage... actually, no, I think I do stay in. I'm not quite sure what the possibility for that was, but I mean, I guess I'm not getting revenge killed by Shuriken if it is Astro Ninja. At least not at like half if they were to Nature's Madness. And getting the Thunderbolt damage would have been for my team in general, just because it would have prevented me from relying so much on Tangrowth, which is something I understand, but I'm not sure that like letting Magearna take damage was in fact the best play, at least in retrospect. So I do end up going for the Thunderbolt. Like I said, to weaken the Tapu Fini, they end up going into the Landorus. That's completely fine. That damage tells me that it's offensive, either Scarf or possibly Z-move. I'm just gonna hope that it's Scarf and try to get my rocks up. Might be able to U-turn out, or not. They wouldn't U-turn out. I'd either get my rocks up or I'd heal. I think I wanted to heal first and then get my rocks up. That's what I'd gone down, but they ended up knocking me out with the Sky Strike. I'm just going to go out to my Keldeo, knowing that I can pretty safely revenge kill it. They do have both Ferrothorn, Tangrowth, or not Ferrothorn, Tangrowth, Ferrothorn, Fini, and what's it called? And Ren, meaning that it's not likely that I'd want to stay in. But if my opponent decided to stay in, like the best they could do to Tangrowth is go for Fly. In which case I could probably go Magearna or something to that effect. So at this point I'm just going to go into my Tangrowth, predicting the Fini, and I do switch out to Tyranitar. What do you call it? I'd like to say that I predicted that. I just knew that Tangrowth on like Heracross in general was not a good idea. And I guess Tyranitar was like most extendable in the event that they in the event that they decided to stay in with Fini. I could just go for Stone Edge or even Crunch, just because like Landorus isn't really a prominent switch in at that point, and they might be inclined to go to Ferrotherm. So I just go T-Tar, and I guess what they were trying to do was double switch so that their Heracross would be out against my Tyranitar, in which case they would be able to set up the substitute. I'm not going to allow that. I'm just going to go for Banded Stone Edge because it's the only thing I can use to break the sub. They can honestly keep doing this until I miss Stone Edge, which is what do you call it? It's it's definitely kind of scummy, but it's, I mean, it's Pokemon. You have to do what you can to win. They only go for 2 substitutes, however. I guess possibly realizing that this could potentially have some use against Garchomp, and just switching into Tangrowth in general. So I guess that's what they were thinking there. At this point in time, I'm probably just going to go into my Chomp, Mega Evolve, and just go for the, what do you call it? I thought I was going to go for the Fire Blast and knock this out. But that's actually a roll, meaning that I wouldn't be able to do so, whereas I would live Pin Missile 100% of the time, if I Mega Evolve, that is, and I'd be able to hit the incoming Landorus or the Feeny or whatever. I'd just be able to provide a lot of pressure, which makes sense because I don't have to go for the Fire Blast on that. I can just Dragon Claw here. If they wanted to go Pivot, it's fine, I'll just hit whatever is in front of me. What do you call it? At this point, I'm just going to save my Garchomp because I have Tangrowth. And obviously I've got Hidden Power Ice. The way they brought it in, and just based on the team structure in general, makes me believe that it is likely to be Choice Scarf. I'm just making Tangrowth a very safe switch in. At this point I'm just going to go ahead and switch out into my Garchomp, anticipating the Ferrothorn, and at this point I'm just going to go for the Fire Blast and deal a lot of damage to that Ferrothorn. Enough so that Magearna would be able to potentially knock it out if given the chance. So I'm just going to go for the Earthquake. I guess I'm not sure if I would have died to Leech Seed. I would have died definitely after 2 turns, but I'm not sure that I would have died after 1. So I guess that's the reason they didn't bother going for Protect. They're also just fine letting Ferrothorn go. So in comes Grunt. I'm not going to let it go for the what do you call it? I'm not going to let it get the Battle Bond activated, because obviously that sort of seems like what they're trying to do, bringing it in on something like a weakened Garchomp. So, I mean, obviously I do risk the extrasensory, but I just decided that, like, if this is Ash Greninja, which it likely could be because this sort of team looks very sort of standard cookie cutter-ish, which mean in which case, like, Guardian isn't necessarily used in that type of team. Although extrasensory definitely would help the team out against Toxapex in general, and you know, just ramblings aside, it like doesn't have a fantastic matchup against Stall. You're kind of relying a bit much on Continental Crush. But like I said, I'm going to go Keldeo, risking any sort of extrasensory, just because I do not want this thing to flinch my Tangrowth. I don't want it to have a powerful Water Shuriken to revenge Magearna. It just doesn't make sense, so I'm just going to go Keldeo. I'm going to go Tangrowth on the off chance that they decide to stay in. Regardless, Tangrowth is a fantastic option against the remainder of my opponent's team. They actually go into the top of the Fini, it's completely fine. I didn't go for the Hidden Power Ice. I didn't feel that there was a need to do so. If they wanted to go for Fly, I could go into Magearna. I also know that I can live Fly at full like outfit, just because it's Fly, it's not Supersonic Sky Strike with over 100 base power, it's Fly with like 90, I believe. So I'm definitely going to live that, knock out the Landorus T. Having this Tangrowth in the back against their last 3 makes it a whole bunch easier to play the game, because I'm able to live Earthquake very easily with Tangrowth. Going to be taking like 15%, oh 15, but yeah, HPX is going to do a sizable chunk, and at this point I can just Giga Drain because there's no real reason not to do so. Locked into Earthquake, it's very likely they're going to switch out, and even so I'm gaining 4 HP out of that in exchange, just going for Hidden Power Ice. And obviously if they go for Outrage and they knock me out, I can just go into Lagirna to set up if I so choose to do so, which would be a good idea because obviously Choice Card Garchomp, it's like prevalent and I would guarantee outspeed it, although I guess I could just Ice Beam it and then just T-Bolt the Thief if I wanted to end the game sooner. Really doesn't matter, the game was secured at that point anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Looking forward to a lot of the megas that were unreleased, like Lopunny in particular. I think it's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to that because obviously Sable. I'm really interested in seeing what Lopunny would do with 4 attacking moves, because obviously you don't have to run Fake Out in order to guarantee a safe Mega Evolution. And the same kind of applies with like Mega Metashell, although it's a lot slower, and it doesn't outspeed things like Ash or Ninja. So yeah, I mean, like, it's really cool because I can see it being a gigantic threat alongside Marshadow. I can just, and what do you call it, Gallade got its Mega Stone, or is getting it soon. Same with Gardevoir. It's just really cool. I'm not sure about Altarian, but I just know that it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of changes in the tier, and so that's kind of why I felt the need to make these videos now, because these replays are not necessarily bad, and it'd be kind of a shame to just like have them be irrelevant and not like ever like seen. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video as well. Guess I'll see you guys next time.